Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being here with us today on this Guesty's webinar, where we're going to be discussing strategies on building a sustainable, environmentally friendly vacation rental or short-term rental business. It's great to have you joining us today. Just to quickly introduce myself before we jump in, my name is Tomer. I'm Guesty's Director of Sales for EMEA, and I'll be moderating this webinar today together with two really interesting and insightful panelists that I'll be introducing in just a minute. With us today are two really interesting panelists that are going to share with us tons of insights. I want to welcome Joseph Ayres, the owner and president at Treehouse Grove and Ayres Vacation Rental. Hi, Joseph. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. And we also have Brad Huber, the VP of Smart Devices and Chief Engineer at Brivo.
Thanks for having me, Tomer.
Great to have you, Brad. Thank you both for joining. It's going to be an interesting event with what you have to share with the audience and some great questions that we've prepared in advance for you. So just a little bit around our agenda and schedule today. Our panelists will be discussing different strategies on building a sustainable business, and we then will begin a live panel discussion and conclude it with an interactive Q&A session from you guys who are attending. So of course, as I've mentioned earlier, if you have any questions, feel free to share this in the Q&A session below. Before we really dive in, a couple of interesting takes from our side here at Guesty that I'd like to address with you. Of course, the summer season, the high season, is in the top of many of our minds, and the summer reservations and bookings is something that we are all monitoring and looking at closely. Guesty took a look at a lot of data recently, and we're really pleased to see that for the US market, there is a massive over 280% increase in reservations compared to last summer season. And we're also even seeing a 32% jump on reservation volumes when we compared it to the summer of 2019 on the pre-COVID era. And that really signifies that people are in a deep need for vacation and ready to get back to travel as usual, and also craving travel very much after a long winter with plenty of lockdowns in most areas of the world. Summer reservations in the UK, volume-wise, are still around 33% lower than what we saw on the pre-COVID era, but we are seeing massive boosts in booking following different announcements from government clarifying the timeline for the lifting of travel-specific COVID regulations and restrictions. We also see an additional surge in summer as things draw closer. And in the meantime, we see a lot of different pricing adjustments made in different vacation rental areas in the UK in order to get property management company the right recoup for some of their losses of the past year. So the reservations or the nightly rates and ADRs are quite significantly higher in the UK compared to where they were at in summer of 2019. And one more topic that I would like to quickly cover before I let Joseph and Brad jump in with their insights is the travel and adjustments that we will be making in the post-COVID world. So, of course, as we embrace the return of normal, it's really important to consider that such normal will look a little bit different than it did on a pre-COVID world. With some travel trends and expectations that were born out of the pandemic likely to stick around with us and reshape the industry quite a bit. As far as those trends, we can expect to continue to see a great number of digital nomads among short-term rental guests, with so many employees continuing to enjoy a relaxed requirement when it comes to being in office. And also spontaneity playing a big role in travel this year, with people not wanting to book too far in advance due to different regulations that may be relevant. Now, as travel normalizes and the confidence level of travelers begin to rise again, we are already seeing bookings being made much further in advance. And we forecast this trend to be likely a growing one, and a more stronger demand for in advance reservations will sustain itself. This will result in different price increases, and so we think, which also may fluctuate the availability of different inventory in different vacation rental areas. Live shopping, by the way, is another trend that we are seeing, with many families leaving crowded cities in search for more space after too many lockdowns that they've experienced, of course. Now, in terms of the expectations from the guests and what is expected from vacation rental and short term rental hosts, flexibility will probably continue to be front and center here. Like I've mentioned, the industry's consumer base have been pretty much impacted by the unpredictability of the world over the past year, and that's not going to change drastically anytime soon. So flexible booking terms will likely to be a standard expectations for some time in the future still. The same is probably true for increased guest communications. So people would want to know more details about where they're staying, with the sharing information and receiving information from reputable hosts who take regular regulations and protocols seriously, and will also be available to answer any inquiries regarding health concerns, check-in procedures, and so on. And finally, one more thing to mention is that throughout COVID era, property management companies help to expedite the evolution of short-term rental industry, turning tech solutions to provide light touch stays to minimize health concern, facilitate efficient operations with leaner terms, and also offer guest tech forward amenities to support longer stays that can really categorize the past year. And guests have seen the future of short-term rental in that sense, and there is really no going back, I would say. Um, just to quickly, for those of you who might be less familiar with Guesty, to introduce to you guys what we do. So Guesty was built with the understanding that professional host and property management company have a ton of tasks to accomplish on their daily basis. Whether it is listing the distribution of your property, staff management, report creations, or guest communications, the Guesty's platform helps automate many of those tasks in order to save valuable time that can scale their business without sacrificing quality. Throughout COVID-19, our automation and technology provided the ability to streamline and centralize operations, and has been a massive asset to property management companies throughout the world, making it significantly easier to quickly pivot their business, work remotely, and function with leaner teams. Now, when travel begins to normalize, those same tools will help property management companies accommodate the welcome influx in reservations and tasks that come along with it. Our vetted marketplace is another area where property management companies can receive the right support and assistance from third party partners as part of the ecosystem of solutions that Guesty offers in order to enhance guest experience or simplify the management process and maximize revenue. Some of those tools that we offer as part of our marketplace for property management companies are tools that are assisting them in um, becoming more environmentally conscious. For example, reducing energy costs by providing remote control of amenities like lighting, pool heating, or air conditioning, as well as discuss uh, uh, catering to evolving guest expectations. It is crucial to consider sustainability, which has throughout the pandemic become even more important value to consumers than it already was. Studies have shown that reduced pollution due to the holding of the world was resulted in an increased appreciation for efforts to protect the environment. And businesses are going to increasingly be held accountable for their carbon footprint, and property management companies will be no exception. And this is really the reason why we are joining to here today after uh, all those different financial challenges that many companies were facing last year. Many hospitality brands are finding themselves that prioritizing energy saving measures is an effective measure to decreasing their bottom line and keeping their business budgets on track. Uh, it is time to turn it over to our speakers, and we're going to start with Joseph from Treehouse Grove and Ayres Vacation Rental, who will share with us how his property management company benefits from its environmentally friendly approach to hosting.
So I want to thank Guesty for kind of having us on here today. I appreciate the opportunity to come out and speak with everybody. My name is Joseph Ayres. I am the president and CEO of both Treehouse Grove and Ayres Vacation Rentals. We started Ayres Vacation Rentals about two to 3 years ago, and we were managing some luxury rentals here in the Great Smoky Mountains. We sit like right outside Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge, which is the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. And so we started with some luxury rentals, and as we were trying to kind of build our business, we were thinking about not only what's the best way to relate with guests and kind of the current times, but we wanted to kind of give back and do our part as we grow. And so we're a family-owned business, locally owned and operated. There's about seven of us here. But hopefully we'll be expanding here pretty quickly. So talking about sustainable businesses, there's kind of three pillars in my mind when you come to talk about this. You have people, planet, and then profits. And so that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about here today, very quickly for you. So let's start with people. So here at Ayres Vacation Rentals, you'll hear me say all the time, we're obsessed with the guest experience. We want to know from the time the guest gets on our booking website or sees us on Airbnb or VRBO or any of those other OTAs, we want that experience to be flawless to several days after they leave. And Guesty is a big part of that. It helps us with a lot of the automation, which you'll hear me touch on here shortly. But that provides just the perfect experience for them. We're able to control all that. And so that's been just a tremendous opportunity for us. Kind of doing our part. We encourage all our employees to kind of do everything they can, give back in the community. We try to make less runs to maybe Home Depot or the laundry facilities. We've actually just instituted, we bought more linens, figuring out that we can actually go to the laundry facility less often, and this will actually help increase our profits when it comes to saving on labor hours and all that type of stuff. And so let's get to the planet here. Tree houses naturally are perfect when it comes to kind of that sustainable business here. One thing that's kind of unique about Treehouse Grove is you can't really move the trees, right? So we had to design and build each tree house around the trees. And so we took that kind of to the next step when it comes to the land also. And so in and around Treehouse Grove here, we reused many of the rocks that we had in and around what we call Norton Creek that you can see right here. We reused a lot of the trees. We reused a lot of the plants. And then we also replanted. So at Treehouse Grove here, each of our tree houses is named after a tree. So whether it's the cedar or the magnolia or the maple, and then we replanted a maple tree next to the maple, a cedar tree next to the cedar, and so on and so forth. And that kind of gives a a very a great guest experience. They can really get behind kind of the movement and really feeling like they're giving back. This also helped us kind of reduce our footprint. And then we also encourage our guests to kind of reuse their towels and all that type of stuff as well. And this has just helped us kind of increase our ROI to in a good way here. So that last pillar is profits. We're all in the property management businesses and sustainable businesses. You have to have profits. We talk about no margin, no mission. So we can't really make anything happen from that way. And some of those key things for us is the automation. I call that kind of the silent profits. This helps improve our efficiencies, helps keep our costs down, and that's overall makes a better guest experience as well. In our Treehouse Grove project, that land disturbance was a big thing. We tried to leave the land as undisturbed as possible, which is great because all of our units are up in the trees, and so it actually creates a usable space down below, and our clients have loved that. Our guests have loved that. And then overall, we have a clean product. So anything from the types of cleaning solutions that we use to anything as it relates to that, our guests love that. They love feeling like they're giving back. And while we might be a small company, we have kind of a big benefit because we reach so many guests in such little time for them. So that's my presentation for you all here today. Feel free to reach out to us. You can go to treehouse-grove.com or email us at treehouse@ayersvacationrentals.com, and look forward to hearing any questions y'all might have here in a little bit.
Thank you, Joseph. That was super interesting and very insightful. I'm going to hand it over to Brad right now to take us through his part, which is definitely just as insightful as Joseph. So, Brad, please take it away.
Well, I'm Brad Huber with Brivo, and I want to talk just a little bit about efficiency and sustainability through smart home and vacation rental. All right. So as you know, the vacation rental industry is getting in on the home automation trend. And what the industry has largely done is taken consumer devices and adapt them to the vacation industry. We're also now starting to see vacation specific devices. And the main devices that the industry has found application for are locks, thermostats, leak sensors, freeze sensors, water valves, noise measurement, garage door controllers, lights, and more. Several of the home automation systems out there, including Brivo, work with a variety of devices, and they connect everything with the cloud so we can do useful things with them. And that allows for devices to be managed centrally. The key value proposition is to save time and money using those devices while also improving the guest experience. And you're probably familiar with the efficiency benefits of smart home and vacation rental, but let's review a little bit of that. So for the property manager, they can reduce their operational costs by not having to staff a front desk to receive guests, not having to send staff out to open homes, and of course, reducing walkouts and improving guest reviews. There's some listed there for the owner as well, which we'll talk about the energy side of that here in a moment. And then, of course, guests have a nice experience because they don't need to pick up keys anywhere, and they can really come and go at the time that's convenient for them. Let's talk about the automation side of home automation. So guests book a stay at any number of booking sites. Guesty records the booking, and Brivo, through integration, pulls the booking information. And our system then goes to work creating access for the incoming guest and getting the home ready for their stay. What this really means is that property managers don't have to manually re-enter data, which nobody loves. Let's talk about the sustainability side as well as efficiency. So locks are the most common smart home device, and keyless entry has really become table stakes in the industry. It's fairly obvious how they make rentals more efficient in terms of employee costs and guest convenience. Here's the argument on the sustainability side. If you don't have keyless entry, guests have to drive to pick up keys, or staff have to drive to deliver keys, unless you have a very closely, small geo footprint on your operations. But it's not only inconvenient, but there's carbon emission right there with that travel. All right. Smart thermostats save energy. 10 to 15% is what we've seen in typical cost savings in terms of bill reduction. And on the, this is kind of an illustration of it. So the house is vacant. It can be hot. The lights are off, and you're saving money. And then when the reservation starts, the lights can turn on. The air conditioning turns on. The home's inviting. That's all automatic. And then the guests arrive, and they're happy. They have a great experience. And it's a way to reduce energy consumption that not only is a cost savings, but most of that energy consumption in the US at least comes from carbon sources still today. All right, here's the humble sliding door, bane of property managers everywhere. Guests, in some sense, turn off their brain and throw the door open to enjoy some indoor and outdoor living. Meanwhile, the air conditioning starts working overtime. Not only is it costly, but often the outside equipment will freeze up and stop working. That's a service call, and then also waiting for the ice to melt before the cooling service can be fixed. With a door sensor, that air conditioner can be turned off when the door is left open. Again, it's an energy and a carbon savings. There's a number of sensors on the market that have both a leak and a freeze detection capability. These are installed near water heaters in equipment closets, near appliances, or what have you. And that's useful because homes do have water leaks. And so when a leak is detected, not only are staff notified, but if the home is equipped with a water shutoff valve, our system can automatically shut off the water until the issue is resolved. And preventing home damage saves resources, new materials, and it can have an eco impact due to the consumption and the manufacturing of those new materials. Not to mention the cost side and the rental downtime that can result. So here's just some of our kind of cost savings estimates as it relates to energy consumption, rekeying, preventing those freezes and floods, and then the time savings on it in terms of an HR spend and that sort of thing, on an annual basis that we've seen with our system. And just a pleasure to be here. Home automation, a smart home can definitely help with the eco side of building a sustainable business while also helping on the efficiency side. So back to you, Tomer.
Thank you, Brett. That was super interesting. The next part of our event today is going to be a panel discussion. So, Brett, Joseph, let me kick this discussion session with the following question. What would be your recommendation as a first step to hosts and property management companies who are right now considering or just getting started out on their path to sustainability?
So kind of my recommendations are do your research up front. It's worth investing the time to kind of figure out a lot of the things that Brad's talked about. They seem to have a great product, and actually we should probably be looking into talking with Brad after this. But
let's chat, Joseph.
So yeah, I think just a lot of that research up front, and kind of I feel like we've made all the mistakes in the last year. We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary and at Treehouse Grove, and so had we invested just a little bit more time, we would have learned a lot much quicker, and I feel like that probably would have saved us a lot of labor hours. So that's kind of my my recommendation.
So the next units or tree houses you guys are going to be building are going to be more efficient, more energy conscious than the ones you already have, essentially.
Yeah. So we actually just broke ground on our next 8 tree houses, and the energy efficiencies and have been top of mind. Some of our struggles in what we call phase one were kind of our HVAC systems were freezing up and ended up leaking. So I know exactly what Brad's been talking about there. And so that's top of mind. And so we found some solutions and they're still looking for some other solutions to kind of keep some stuff like that from happening.
Yeah. And what I would maybe add is just the idea of taking an inventory. So if you kind of take an inventory of how your operations are today, and if you do have a desire to, improve that eco or that sustainability side of the equation, there may be some small changes that you can make that would have a decent impact. And then, just looking at that cost side as well, there may be some cost savings that you can achieve simultaneously.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually a follow up on that, because in both your presentations, you've mentioned the very important link between being environmentally conscious to the cost saving factor or the revenue factor that it can present. And maybe taking this to a bit of a different direction, can you guys name some of the less obvious benefits of going green?
For me, it's been happier employees. It's interesting because you might not think about it. You think of going green and having energy efficient appliances and that type of thing, and all that's good stuff. But when it came down to it, the employees that I have they're happy to get behind kind of our vision here. And when you have happy employees, you have happy customers. When you have happy customers, you have returning customers. And so that's kind of my lesser obvious benefit.
That's great.
I think that's been one for us at Brivo as well on the sustainability track. But I would also mention, there are, I don't know if you wouldn't call them PR benefits, but certainly others, whether it be guests that are coming, may appreciate that message and that mission, if you will.
Absolutely. It's probably also going to be a more important factor for guests in choosing their next destinations and their next accommodation choice based on the level of environmental consciousness that their vacation rental provider or host is advertising on. And I think also the combination between the green effect or the environmental effect of some of the amenities and the certain hardware pieces that we've mentioned earlier around the business are also not just environmentally conscious, but also things that are going to be enjoyed by the guest, and the guest will see value in those. So on continuing on that topic of property managers dipping their feet into a more of sustainable vacation rentals and properties, what would you flag as the different challenges a hospitality business may face in promoting sustainability, and how they might be able to overcome those challenges?
So we've made a lot of mistakes here at Ayres Vacation Rentals and kind of the short time that we've tried to implement a lot of these things. I'm going to say we tried to make too many changes too quickly, and having too many different types of systems. And so actually, I think that's a perfect segue over to Brad, because it seems like they have kind of one platform for many of the different types of problems that you might have.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, that has been our focus, is a unified product that kind of brings together a lot of different functionality. And one I would say is, that like many good, starting on many good paths, some change is required, right? So like in the case of our system, devices have to be installed, purchased and installed. And so, that's a barrier to getting started. But certainly I would say that is probably the case for other processes as well. You have to make a change, whether it's, changing your laundry process and rules or whatnot. So changes would be my answer.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Joseph, here's an interesting one for you. What are the different measures that you can implement in the name of decreasing carbon footprint? I know you guys did a bunch of those, and I bet you have some new things lined up for those new treehouse units that you broke ground on.
Yeah, so the one thing we just did recently, and I think I touched on it a little bit, but we've actually reduced our laundry costs by about 40%, by actually buying more sheets and keeping a little bit more inventory. Typically, we've been about 3 par in the past. We're probably going up to maybe 5, and we've just figured out that that's less time in the car for us because we don't have our own laundry facility. So that you're reducing your labor hours, reducing your carbon footprint when it comes to driving the truck down there. And some of the traffic that we have here in the Great Smoky Mountains, that can be upwards of an hour one way. And it's only a couple miles. So it just kind of depends on the season and that type of thing. But that's our biggest thing that we've recently here discovered. So we're pretty excited about it.
That's fantastic, and I'm sure you're gonna get a lot of additional ideas and inspirations as you go along and continue. Do you get also guests to provide different takes or suggestions at times, or perhaps the community as you are right at the entrance of a national park?
We do. We have a lot of guests that they love coming to the tree houses, and they love kind of getting behind a lot of the things that we support. And so we get a lot of feedback when it comes to using a lot of those appliances and the HVAC systems and that type of thing. And then we also get some feedback of just saying, hey, we noticed the sign that talks about the towels and the usage, and we're glad you all are trying to help in any way that you can, while also still giving us the experience that we kind of came here for.
That's great stuff. And my next one is actually for Brett. So Brett, how many resources does a technological suite of solutions save short-term rentals operators?
The answer to that varies depending on where the homes are based, the types of inventory, et cetera. But I had one slide there that I shared with some typical savings. And if you're doing keyless and you're doing the AC, and you also have the sensors for disaster prevention with leak and freeze, you can expect around $500 per unit annually. And then in addition, there's the HR cost reduction side, which is even more significant. So, but it does depend, right? So if you're in Florida, if you're in Texas, those southern areas, the air conditioning usage and really being able to trim that down is going to have an impact. If you're in a ski destination, being able to prevent the freezes that are so destructive that, those, which doesn't happen, by the way, like on every house, but, even if you have just 1 or 2 homes that has significant damage in a given season, that, that's a significant cost. And so when you spread that across each home, that, it really adds up. So, but I think we're happy to chat with anyone that's looking on, for their specific company, what smart home can do. We love to advise on that.
Of course, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. So we'll advance in our event today, because we do want to get to some questions that we have received from the audience in attendance. So I'm going to start with one question that I saw here for Joseph. Joseph, obviously you guys are located in a natural surrounding, a natural site. You're right by a national park, and you have the opportunity to work with more of natural materials and to be very much environmentally conscious. What would you recommend as a way to approach an environmental environmental way of hosting for hosts that might be in a bit of a different area of the world, if it's not a rural area or a destination like yours, a city area, for example?
Ooh, that's a tough one. We're so blessed here being right next to the national park. It's makes it easy on us almost. I would just suggest do your research. Know who your guest might be. Know their interests. We spend a lot of time on demographics and figuring out who's interested in our product, where they're coming from, how often do they come here, what are their trends while they're here. A lot of our demographic for our guests, they're coming to the national park because they want to be out in nature, or they might also want to go to some of the attractions that are around here. But I'd say probably 50% of our guests are here to, they're going to go out and hike and find some of the waterfalls in the area. So look to your surroundings. What's attractive in wherever you are, whether it's a ski mountain if you're out skiing, or if it's the beach in Florida. Look for those ways to kind of incorporate that into your listings, and maybe even some of your welcome manuals and that type of thing.
Sure, that's great. We had one more of a, I would say, technical one for Brett, but I do want him to provide the answer out loud. So we got a question around what happens if electricity goes down very often. What kind of a solution a smart home can provide, and how it will help?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I would say that's a challenge if you're in an area where the electricity goes down. And so, my thoughts go out to you. What smart home can do, one of the things that occurred to me is that if you either have an area where the internet goes down frequently or the power goes down frequently, smart home systems, including ours, can give you a notification that has occurred. And so you can actually get a notification, become aware of it before the guest arrives, or even before the guest is maybe aware of it if they're out. And so that just can give you a head start on addressing the problem.
Sure. Thank you for that. That makes a lot of sense. And another one for Brett from the audience. In terms of the future, what do you see as the next environmentally forward tech solution or trends?
Well, that's that's a tough one. I'll give my crystal ball. Well, one thing that's been interesting that I'll reference in Australia, they have extremely high. I guess I'm not aware on the latest, but they have extremely high energy costs. And so one trend that's been interesting there is that they've actually done whole home electrical monitoring, so they can very closely, using smart home, tell exactly what the consumption is. And not only that, but a master switch for the home. So for example, when the home's unoccupied, they will remotely shut off the power so that they don't, accidentally have power consumption. We may see something like that migrate to the US at some point. So that would be one thing. Beyond that, I think there's novel uses like noise would, noise detection would probably be not one that everyone would have thought of, say 5 years ago, but it's definitely here and present now. What else? Let me think of that, and maybe I'll come back to it.
Sure, we're gonna circle around that, and I have one for Joseph as we do so. Joseph, what would you say are the most effective ways of marketing your properties to capture environmentally conscious travelers?
The most effective ways is having a treehouse. Typically, those kind of sell themselves when it comes to that. But no, we talk about kind of as you come to Treehouse Grove is, you're reconnecting with nature, right? We have a lot of branding when it comes to, for the last 100 years. People have been coming to the Great Smoky Mountain National Park to kind of relax, they recharge, they reconnect with nature. And then we add some taglines like "just never like this." And so we try to kind of make them feel that they can come and live maybe a childhood dream of being in a treehouse, or that they're being able to kind of reconnect with nature, that they're able to get to the national park, but they're creating memories. So kind of pulling on some of those emotional strings. And it really resonates with people. And we found that they just get so excited. And by the time they get here, they're just ecstatic. And so that's some of our marketing we've done.
It's that's really great, and it ties nice to that. So, Brett, there are a couple of more, I guess, technical curiosity questions that are being raised. For example, support of such products for home automation, can they be supported um, over cellular Wi-Fi or only regular Wi-Fi hubs in terms of internet connection? I guess when different more remote areas of vacation rentals would come to mind.
Yeah. So in terms of, there's different ways of solving, the connection topic, if you will, with home automation systems. Ours specifically, we do Wi-Fi, Ethernet, and cellular capability with our hubs, which we feel gives the broadest chance of success and the greatest redundancy. So that's kind of how we approach it, and we encourage our customers to have that full flexibility. And I've got an additional answer on the on what the future holds, and just in terms of my fantasy land, right? So one is, I think on the consumption side, when you're talking about trying to reduce electrical and HVAC consumption, I think just a tighter fit around the usage is where we go. So you can have booking specific or HVAC control, but then you can also do is the guest there or are they out for the day? And then you can get even tighter around that, right? You can say which rooms are being used at certain times, and I think we'll see that trend as we try to really minimize usage. But the bigger one that I didn't think of right at first is because I normally think of this in a more of a convenience sense than in a efficiency and an eco sense. But I really think that smart homes will be a service enabler or allow service consumption, so that you can be, say, in a rental and you can book an excursion through your smart home. We're starting to see that with voice assistants and so forth. But it could also be on the eco side in terms of consumption, like maybe it will be that your towel service or your laundry service or your refilling of paper consumables and things like that will all be connected to home automation and and a service side. So I could see it going that way.
That's great. That's really interesting to learn what the future holds in your opinion. That's fantastic. Thank you for that. So thank you for providing really valuable insights to all those questions that came from our audience. That's much appreciated. And just before we wrap things up, if any of you is looking to hear and learn more about what's next for the short-term rental industry, Guesty had recently surveyed over 500 players across the travel and hospitality ecosystem to help us build a forecast for travel recovery. I will invite you all to download the free report that we have on our site. We have a link right there if you would like to access. And you can read more about the different perspectives on everything from industry consolidation to pricing strategy to the people and destinations that will be first to experience travel in the post-COVID world, and much, much more. So this is a really fantastic, very large, very insightful industry report that we've launched. And just to again mention one last thing in terms of big Guesty events that is going to be taking place in this upcoming September. Guestival, which is our annual vacation rental and short-term rental conference is making a glorious return in 2021 after, of course, a recess year in 2020. The event is scheduled to take place in Tel Aviv, Israel, in September 22nd till the 24th. It promised to be one of the most innovative events yet. And you can go ahead and access guestival.com to get more details around that. We saw a question from the audience. Israel will be open for vaccinated travelers by that time, and we are hoping to host as many property managers and other influential of the industry on that event. The 2019 Guestival was simply a fantastic event to be part of. So with that, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today, and thank you so much to our panelists, Joseph and Brad, for taking part in this. We're looking forward to seeing everyone at many of our upcoming virtual events and hopefully non-virtual events very soon as well. And we have that we have planned for the short-term rental community, all of which can be posted and updated on the link that we have right here. If you have any questions, you can shoot us an email at meetup@guesty.com. And thank you everyone again for joining. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you, Brad and Joseph.